went from making 60 grand a year to 450 grand per year as a data engineer in less than 5 years' time. I started my career at Amazon, I went to Lyft, and I was able to work with a few startups in between. And every single time I jumped to a different company, I made an extra 20, 40, 60% more in my compensation as a data engineer. And the thing that most people get wrong is that they think they just need to learn a bunch of tools. What they don't realize is learning projects so they can see how those tools operate is a way better system, because then you can talk about these projects and the real business impact that these tools have when you actually get on an interview, and also when you present your resume and are applying to a bunch of jobs to hiring managers and to recruiters. So in this next video, we have created a project for you to enjoy. And if you do, then please subscribe, like, click on the link below, write in the comments so that you can suggest any more videos that you want us to create, because our goal is to create as many videos as we can for you for free so that we can upload it to YouTube and so that you can enjoy. Other than that, enjoy the project and enjoy the free video. Cheers.
Welcome to the video. Welcome to the project Yahoo Finance end-to-end data engineering project that we are going to do in AWS predominantly. So the prerequisites for this project are: you need to install AWS CLI and you need to set up the AWS configure in your system. That is explained you in the subsequent videos. And you need to install Docker, and the link to install Docker is provided to you in the project folder. And once you install the Docker, you need to start the Docker and keep it running in the background. And also the other prerequisite is you need to have a AWS account. Now with these three things, you can get started with the project. Let me quickly explain you the architecture. So the project is basically, we are fetching the stock data from the Yahoo Finance API. So you will set up a Yahoo Finance API by getting an API key that is explained you in the videos. So there are two tasks here. One is you need to fetch the data from the API by setting up a AWS Batch Job. To do that, you will convert the script into Docker image and save that Docker image into ECR and access that image in AWS Batch and perform the task. After you fetch the data, the next task is you need to perform some transformation on it. So here we don't require all the information that you get from the Yahoo Finance API. You will be fetching only the required information in the JSON format. That is performed in the transform script. Now, just for the project simplicity purpose, we will be combining two scripts into a single Docker image, and we will be pushing that image into ECR, as you can see in the image. Once the Docker image is inside ECR, using the URI of that image, you will run the batch job. The batch job first fetches the data, then it will perform the task 2, which is transforming the data. After transforming the data, it puts it into S3's transform folder. When it fetches the data and it puts it into raw folder. So at the end of the project, your raw folder will be having data fetched from the Yahoo Finance API. And after end of task 2, which will be running in the same AWS batch job, you will have a data in the transform bucket as well. Along with this, we have implemented a failure notification mechanism where you will create a CloudWatch event attached to your AWS batch job. Whenever the batch job fails, it will have a status failed, and that status is picked up and it will send the notification to SNS topic. Now whatever is your subscriber to the SNS topic, maybe your email ID or Slack channel. In this case of the project, we have used email ID. There will be a notification sent to that email address. So whenever the job fails, you will be notified by the SNS. So this is about the project prerequisites and the architecture. To get the Yahoo Finance API and start working on the project, in your Google type YH Finance API, which is Yahoo Finance API. You will be finding some page like this. Click on this particular page. You will be landing into this page where you need to click on sign in button. Once you sign in, you will get your own API. For this, you need to sign in with your email and password. Let me do that. So I think since we are opening it for the first time, let me create this real quick. And password, yes. So you can choose your own password and your own Gmail ID. Click on create account. When you click on create account, a code will be sent to your Gmail. You need to validate that code. Let me get that code for you. Confirm the code that has been sent to your email. After confirming that, you will be getting an API key. You can store this API key in your secrets manager and start working on that. Whenever you hit an API, you will see some kind of a line that is popping up over here that shows that you are accessing the API. So this is how you need to set up your API key and start using it. You can explore the specifications tab and the functions or the endpoints they are providing from here, which will help you to understand this API better. Yes. So this is the API key that you will be storing in your secrets manager, which will be used in this particular project. So gather the API key from the Yahoo Finance and come to AWS. In AWS, just search for Secrets Manager and you will be landing into the Secrets Manager page. Let's wait for it to load. Yes. Click on Store a New Secret. Here we need to store it as per the key and value pair. So select the other type of secret here, which gives you key and value pair. Key, you can choose what key you want to use it in your code. So the name that you write here will be probably the name you will be using in the code by masking the actual API key. Let's just type it. And copy the API key here and just paste it in the value there. You can have your own key and value names here, and you can click on next, then name of the secret. This is the name that will be referred in the AWS Batch Job definition and other places wherever you want to access the secret, the key as well as the value. Let me add a value secret name here. Yahoo Finance API. It's always wise to add tags, so user tags, so that whenever you clean up the resources as well, it will be very easier to clean up them based on the tag. So the project finance DE. Now let me click on next. In the next, I need to check whether I need to do rotation or not. Since we are not using this project for a long-term purpose, we are not using any key rotation here. Let me click next. We'll review the secret and we will proceed. So everything looks good, and script, yeah, this is a example script that helps you how you can fetch the secret using the Python code. You can refer this for easier understanding. It's also used for learning purpose as well. When you click, you have successfully created a secret for your API that you just created with Yahoo Finance. Yes, you can just look at the different options that you have. You want to just retrieve it using that option. Just if you have a point to look at your password once, so you can retrieve the secret, and it doesn't cost any money, and it is not an API call, so you can do that. S3 buckets we need in order to complete this project. So basically we are doing an ETL here using a AWS batch and a Python script and all, where we will be fetching the raw data from the Yahoo Finance API, and using that raw data we will be scripting another Python file which will help us to do a transformation and put the data in some other location. For that purpose, here we are trying to create an S3 bucket. Let me show you the S3 bucket that I have created. You need to create the same structure. This is a S3 bucket that I have created. You can create a bucket of your own choice. So if you open the bucket, you will see two different folders here. One is the raw folder and another one is a transformed folder. In the raw folder, you will store the data coming from the API in the JSON format. In the transformed folder, after applying transformations, you will load the data into transform folder. So in your S3 bucket, structure your bucket in such a way that you have two folders there. One is for raw data, one is for transformed data. This bucket we will be using in the project. So create this bucket beforehand before starting to script the Python files. Now, setting up the system for the project in terms of AWS. Firstly, you need to download the CLI, for which you will be provided link based upon your system you are using. If you are Windows, go and click on this particular button and installer will be given to you. If you are using a Mac, then you will be given this particular link. You can click on this particular link and a package installer will be installed and CLI will be installed. Once the CLI is installed, you need to create a user which will be using in order to interact with your AWS account. This particular user will be interacting with your AWS account through your system on your behalf. I have created this particular user. Now, how will my system know which is my user that I am using? For that, if you open the user, there is something called access key. Okay. You need to create an access key, and an access key details will be provided to you, which will be used to perform all the actions on your behalf. Let me go ahead and only two access keys are accessible for one particular account. For that reason, I am deleting this particular, deactivating this just to demonstrate you. Yes, now one of the keys in a deactivated state. Now let me go ahead and create one more key. Click on create access key, and since you are using this code to interact with the local system, you need to choose this particular thing, application running on AWS compute service, because you are using AWS batch, the ECS and ECR in this project. You will be creating by choosing this particular option and understand and click on the next. Once you click on the next and click create access key, an access key and the secret access key will be created. Now we need to download this file. Now how to configure is, go to your terminal. Now after your CLI is installed, try to run this command AWS configure. Once you do AWS configure, it will ask you what is the access key. Now copy the access key from here and paste it here, then hit enter, then copy the secret key from here and hit enter. For safety reasons, just download these CSV files so that you will not lose it in the later stage. Once you close this tab, this secret access key cannot be accessed in any possible way. After you have done this, just move ahead, don't change anything. Default region is US East 1 and output format is none. Just do nothing. With this, your local system now knows what is the AWS user that it needs to use in order to interact with your AWS services. Only after doing this, all your Boto3 or AWS commands or Docker commands will be executed. So this is the prerequisite step for you to execute all the required steps in the project. Let us create a script for reading the data from Yahoo Finance API and loading it into S3 bucket. For that, we need to import necessary libraries into our script. Let's first import the necessary libraries. we will be importing request library, then we will be importing Boto 3, then we will be importing JSON, then we will be importing OS. This is a standard library that we will be importing, and finally we need couple of more libraries just to work with time. They are time, and finally from date time we need date time. Perfect. And once the required libraries are imported, we should also import few of the methods in order to catch the exceptions that are from Boto core dot exceptions. We will be importing, it will be Boto core error, comma no credentials error, comma client error. We will be importing the Boto core error, no credentials error, and client error. Typically, we will be catching these three error types in our script. So once the library import is completed, let's quickly jump into the actual script. So in the actual script, firstly, we need to get the credentials in order to access the AWS. Since we are writing the script in our local environment, when we run the script inside AWS, it should validate the credentials. So the first method we will be creating today will be getting credentials. How we get is we debug credentials, and for that I'll be creating a method. In this method let's use try method because we wanted to catch exceptions. Let me catch exceptions here. So inside my try method, what am I doing is I'll establish a session first, Boto3 dot session. So yes, once the session is established, then my next goal is to get the credentials. Credentials is equals to, from session I will do get underscore credentials, get underscore credentials. Now I will get all the necessary credentials like AWS access key, token, secret, and everything. Now we need to validate if we are getting these credentials or not. That is, we need to validate if the credentials are being fetched or not. For that I'll write a if clause. If credentials, if we are getting anything in credentials, we will write a print statement. AWS credentials found. Perfect. Now else, in the else statement we will print if the credentials are not found, that is the case, no AWS credentials found. So instead of just writing credentials found and all, it will be very better if we write one more print statement here. What credentials did we find? For that, what I'm doing is access key, and here I will be giving credentials dot access key. So we will be printing what is the access key that we are fetching from the credentials. Now for exceptions, as E, I need to print
Hey, real quick. If you are looking to land a higher paying data role, then there will be a link in the description or in the comment section for you to fill out a form and then book a call with my team who has already helped over 2,000 people get a higher paying data role. And we hope that you are the next person that we help. And so all you have to do is click on the link below. And if you don't want to help, no worries at all. Keep watching the video, keep enjoying it. And yeah, let's go back to the video now. Cheers.
What are we printing? If there is any exception in finding the credentials, we will do error debugging credentials, and we will be printing the error. That is, exception here is E. Perfect. Now we are done with credentials. Before we move into any further step, the important point will be we need to run this particular method. So only if this method succeeds, further methods needs to be executed. For that, we will call this method debug credentials. Now we are done with part 1 of the code. Now the second part of the code. Since we are using secrets manager here, we will be creating a function to fetch the secrets from the secrets manager. Let me write a function for that. Fetch secret, and inside that we need to give the name of the secret which we are trying to fetch. The argument will be secret name. Okay. Now let's again try to perform some action, then we can catch the exceptions. Now try, since we are interacting with AWS service here, we need to create a client. If you are interacting with secrets manager, we will create a client for secrets manager. Now client is equals to boto3.client. Inside that you will give secrets manager. Perfect. Now you have a client. Now you need to get a response to fetch the secret. Now the response would be using the client dot get secret value. These are the boto3 functions you need to identify. Secret ID will be my secret name. I will copy it here and I will paste it here. Yes, my secret name. So now I have a response with the secret value. I need to return this response. I want the responses to be in the JSON format, so I will return in JSON. JSON .loads response dot, I need the secret string. You will get this particular code when you have created the secrets manager secret as well. You can refer to the AWS to get this code. Secret string. I'm closing the list and perfect. Now we will need to give exception. Except what are the exception that we might get is, since we are using a client here, we can let a client error as E. When we get a client error, we will print error fetching secret, and we will be passing error over here. This will be our print statement. These print statements will help us to identify what is happening and exactly where the code has. We need to raise the error, and let us proceed with the further errors what we can get. So typically one more error you can get is exception error as E. I am printing what am I printing is unexpected error fetching secret. Let me also give it as this so that we also know what is the error is. Now we are done with now we will write a function to fetch the data from Yahoo Finance API. Let me define the function first. So my function name would be fetch stock details. Let me use that name, fetch stock details. And the arguments that I'm going to give in this, I want to know what are the stock symbols that I need to fetch the details for, and also I need to know the API key, and after knowing the API key I will mention retries. So the reason we are giving retries is HTTP endpoint sometime will be very busy and may not respond to us. So in that case, we will retry for certain number of times in order not to fail. Now, before starting how to fetch the details, we need to know what is the URL we are going to hit. And after that, we need to also know the headers, which we need to pass. And from where can we get the URL is, let me quickly take you there. So if you see your Yahoo Finance API, go to specifications. Inside that, this is the get request or the endpoint we are using. That is, we just know the details of the code. Click on tryout. When you click on tryout, you will see, click on execute later on. Then you will get certain link over here. If you carefully observe this link, up till this point everything is same for all the requests, only the symbol changes for each of the requests. I'll just copy this and paste it in my code. You need to also do the similar thing. Yes, if you look at this, I have copied that URL till equal to, and I have added this piece of code, which is if my symbols are separated by a comma, I want to split it and I want to join all of them, and this is the header. Now, since we are doing 3 retries here, we need to write a for loop that runs for each of the attempt. For attempt in range of retries. And now we need to define what are the things that we need to do inside our try. Now let me again do a try catch block. Try response is equals to I'll be using requests libraries get method, and inside get method it takes 2 arguments. One is URL, the other one is headers equals to headers. Yes, so this will fetch me the result of the data. The data will be very scrambled. We need to return the data. Before that, let me print out something so that we are aware that the response is completed. Print, and what am I printing? Let me do this as this is response, and here I'm just printing the response so that we can see the response actually. So once we have printed the response, there is one case which we need to handle is number of retries. Because we are using free API, the rate limit can be exceeded. To catch that, if let's say response dot status code is equals to 429. This is the response code if the rate limit is exceeded. What are we doing in these particular cases? We'll just let us know that rate limit hit, and we will be retrying and we will be retrying in, we need to give a time buffer over here. After how many seconds we are retrying? 2 power attempt. So if it's a third attempt, it will be taking 8 seconds to retry. If it is second attempt, it will be taking 4 seconds to retry. After this seconds, and for that we also need to give the time buffer. I'm using time library. I'll use sleep of 2 power attempt. Perfect. Once we have done the sleep, now we just need to continue and raise the exception block. That is, let me do except. Let me get the exception block for you. Now if you look at the exception block, I have tried to catch two exceptions here. One is HTTP error because we are dealing with the endpoints. Another one is a general exception, and we need to raise both of them. Now the final function that we need to write is, now we have the data in the form of response, we need to write it into S3. For that I am writing a function called write to S3. This function will help me to write the data to S3 bucket. Now what are the arguments that my write to S3 function takes is, it should know what is a bucket name that it should write to, it should know the data what it should write, and it should also know the folder path. For that we will give key prefix. So these are the three arguments that we require to write the information to the S3 bucket. Since we are interacting with S3, let's create a client. Boto3.client, and the client is for S3. So we will use this particular client to interact. Now every time the function or the code is run, a new file will be generated. In order to differentiate the files, I need to add a timestamp at the end so that I know when did this particular run happen and when is this file created. For that I'll create a variable called timestamp, and I will be using the datetime libraries now, and strip time. I'll be modifying the way we want to store it. I need year, so year of, then I need month, then I need day, followed by, if there are multiple times in it runs in a day, I also need hour, minute and second. I need minute, then I need seconds. Perfect. This is how I want to structure my timestamp at the end. And I also need to give a name of the file, what it needs to write. For that I'll create a key, and key will be something like this. Let me take prefix, because we can get it from the argument itself. Let me copy this. It will be key prefix, and the name that would like to give is stock data, and at the end I want to attach the timestamp that I have created. That will be my timestamp. And since this will be a JSON file, at the end I will give .json. So this will be my key of the file that will be attached whenever there is a run happen. Now finally I need to put the information by using put object method of Boto3. Put object method takes bucket, that is equals to bucket name. I will use bucket name. One is bucket name. I need to give key is equals to the key that we have prepared above, and finally the body of the data. I need to give the body. The body will be json.dumps. What is my body? That I am getting it from data, comma, I'll use an indent just to make it look cleaner. I'm indenting by 2. Perfect. Now this will put the information into my S3 bucket. Once it is completed, I will print out something in order to make us know in the CloudWatch logs. Data successfully, let me do written to S3, and we will also specify what is the bucket name where it has been written, just to make it more clearer. Here I will get the bucket name. I'll paste it over here, and also I also want to know what is the key, what is the name of the file that I have generated, because I can go back to my logs and I can cross validate. Now this is about the put object. Since again we need to implement a try catch block over here, let me indent this and enter. Sorry, we need to get this try, and at the end we need to enter the exception block. Let me get the exception block. So this is a simple exception block where I have prepared the Boto3 core error and also have raised an exception, general exception. With this we have completed the 4 different methods that we are going to implement in our main function. Now it's our job to write the main function that we will be executing. Main is equals to name is equals to, it will be underscore underscore, this will be our main function that runs. Now let's draft the main function code. To complete our main function, we need 3 variables. First of all, one is to get the secret, we need a secret name, and also we need the bucket name because we will need to specify which bucket it needs to write into. And also the final thing we need to get is the symbols. What are the different symbols that we are trying to get the data for this one? Let us quickly write those 3 things over here. First thing that we need is a secret name is equals to, we will get it, and the second thing we need is the bucket name to specify it in the right to bucket, and we also need symbols. What are the symbols that we want the data for? Now to get the secret name we use the os.getEnv because we will be passing this as environmental variables when we run the job. And how are we fetching it is, we'll give the name secret name. From this value it can fetch the name, which is the name of the secret it is getting, and the secret name is Yahoo Finance. This might be different in your case, please write your own secret name. Yahoo Finance API. This is my secret. Now I also need a get bucket name. For that I again use os get environmental variables. In that my variable name I would like to give is s3 bucket. Let me put it differently. Yes, s3 bucket, and the bucket name for me is finance. This might be different in your case, please write your own bucket name. S3 stock data DEA. This is my bucket name. Now the symbols, I will again pass this in the environmental variables, so I'll do os.getEnvironment, and here I will be passing what are the name that I'm trying to give is stock symbols. You will see the same names when we pass the job in the AWS batch. Stock symbols, and what are the different stock symbols we are trying to calculate now or get the data is, one is Apple, another one is Microsoft, and another one is Google. So these are the different things. Since it is in a comma, let us split it here itself. Split, I am splitting it based on comma. Oh, 1 second, I'm splitting it based on comma, so this will be split. Now we need to do the actual main function. Let me give a try and catch block again. What am I trying is, firstly I need to get the secrets. For that I will use the function that we have written above, that is fetch secrets. If you see, this is the function fetch secret. Let me copy this and fetch secret. We need to give the input, right? That is the secret name. We are getting it from here. Let me paste it. Once you got the secret name, you also need an API key. You need to build the API key because the secret is actually the API key's secret value that you have stored in the secrets manager. The API key will be the response of the above function. How are we going to write this? Secrets of, and the API Yahoo, the name of the secret, Yahoo Finance API key. This way we can hide the values by putting it in a secrets manager. We will not write the actual secret in our code, and later on we have fetched the secret. Now we need to get the data. To get the data, I will use stock data, and what is the method that I'm going to use is what we have built above, fetch stock details. Fetch stock details. This might be different in your case. Just use the same name of the method that you have passed. I need to pass symbols, that Apple, Microsoft and Google, and also I need API key. If you carefully observe, we are not giving number of retries here because by default we have given it as 3. If you need more retries or less retries than 3, you need to explicitly mention. If not, it will by default take 3. Now I will write it to S3. Right, this is the method that we have created, and to write it into S3 I need bucket name. I'll use bucket name from here. Let me paste it here. I need bucket name. I need the data that I need to put it into the bucket, that is this stock data. Finally, I also need the key prefix. We are putting it into the raw folder, so I am putting raw. So this will complete our task. Let me get the exceptions. We'll talk about the next step, where once the data is loaded into your raw bucket in AWS, what next? Let me take you to AWS. Now this is our bucket which we were using for this particular project. Now we somehow bring the data using our script into raw folder. How are we moving our data into transform folder after validating and extracting only the information that we want? For that we will be using a transform script. Let me go through this script. We will provide all the details of the script to you in your project resources. So import all the necessary libraries like the Boto3, JSON, OS and datetime. We didn't import the request library because we are not doing any kind of HTTP or HTTPS request here. Now just an overall view of the script. There are two things mainly. One is the reading from S3, reading the data that is present in the raw folder and transforming the data. These are the two important things. Eventually the final thing is you will write it into the transform folder. Now how are we doing this is we create a client as usual and we create a response. We list all the objects. This is a method of Boto3 under S3 client, and we specify the name and the prefix. What we need to look at. The prefix means the name of the file which we are looking at. It will look all the names which is having this as a prefix. Now if there are no contents found, we will say no files in the bucket. This is just to handle the case when the bucket is empty. Secondly, we will sort the contents of the response, that is whatever we are getting the list of the objects, we will sort them based upon last modified time. So if you look at your S3 bucket, your bucket will give you what is the last modified time here. Based on the last modified time, we will sort the files. Once the sorting is done, you will read all the information using get object, and you will read what is present in this JSON files using the loads, and the body of the data is read. Once the body is there with us, now that is as a JSON, we will use this in order to do a transformation. Out of all the information we need, we only want few things in that, like the company ID, company name, currency, current price, day low and day high. We don't want to extract all the information. We are cleaning the JSON with only required information. Once we have cleaned it, we return the transform data. If you see, this is a dictionary which is having key and value. You can pause the video and have a look at the function. Finally, once your transform data is present with you, you need to write it back into your folder, that is your transform folder. You create a new client As usual, how you do in the Spark script, the initial data loading script, you create a date time, then you give the key to that and you put the object. When you put the object, you specify the name of the bucket, key, and what you want to put it. If I show you the script that we have done earlier, we have done the same thing to write it into S3. This part remains the same. Now the main function. Here what do we need in the environmental variables are the raw bucket, I mean the bucket which we are using, and the transform bucket. But in this case both are the same bucket but different folders. So we give the same bucket name here and the prefixes. For raw prefix we have raw, and for transform prefix we have transform. We get these names from here. And once that is done, we are reading the raw data by using read from S3 function we have written above. Read from S3 function we have written above. Once we have read, then we will apply the next function, which is transform data. Then we will write it to S3 using the function write to S3. Here we mention the bucket name, the data, and the prefix. If we get any exception here, we will catch it using the except block. Now you can pause this video and look at any part of the script. I will just scroll through slowly. You can pause the video and look at any part of the script. Now we will end this video here. In the next video we will look at how to build a Docker file and how to push that image to ECR and other stuff. We will be creating the Docker file. Once the script is done, the Spark script and the transform script is completed, our next task is to create a Docker file. So to create a Docker file inside your folder, just create a file name called dockerfile.docker. This will be created. Now what is the script that you need to use? First thing is you need to use a base image. Since we are running everything on top of Python, we will create a Python base image. Docker is something like a compute environment which is having all the required necessary scripts for your project. You don't need to install anything on top of this Docker. If you have this container image, you can run whatever is required for that project. So since the Python is our base language we are using the Docker base image. That is done using a command called from, and you can get this from the Docker's repositories. Now after this, you need to install the necessary dependencies. In our case, we need to install Boto3 and request. Other than Boto3 and request, like OS, request and all will come with Python in-house. So no need to install them. So you use run command to install the Boto3 and requests. After that, we need to copy the scripts that are present in the folder which are required for your project. Now we require Spark script and we also require transform script. Don't confuse the name with Spark script here. We are trying to use Python here. Okay. Now let me continue with the Docker file. We have copied both the scripts using the copy command, copy spark script.py, transform spark script.py. You put this under the folder called app, all the files in your container, and you will create an image of it later on. After you create a path, you need to create a working directory for this particular project. You are creating app since you are using app as your location for your Python files. After that, the most important thing is the command. You will run the shell script. This is a way how you execute the shell script. You run the Python script first. After that, you run the transform script. If you see Python Spark script, Python transform script. Now your Spark script will load the data into S3 that is fetched from the Yahoo Finance API. Once the data is into your S3 bucket, then using your transform script, you will transform the data and load it into your transform folder of the S3 bucket. Now to execute these two files, you need certain compute capacity, scripts and all. We will do that in the batch. But before we assign a compute environment, job definition and all, you need to have a Docker image. So to create that image, this is the Docker script we are running. Now let me save the script. Once the Docker file scripting is completed, the next task is to build the image. Now here comes the crucial question. How do you connect your Docker to your AWS? That is by using a service called ECR. Let me take you to AWS and show you what ECR is. So if I go to AWS Elastic Container Registry, this is the home page. As of now, we don't have any repositories here. Now, first of all, to store any image, like how you need a repository to store any code in GitHub, you need to create a repository to store any Docker images. Now, to create a repository, here is the command. Just take this command and go to your terminal and run this command. Once you run this command and check, let me quickly do that, and if you go to your ECR, your command will be executed and a repository will be created. Let me take you to AWS ECR and show you that. Now since we have executed, let me go to repositories. This is one. If you see this, there is a stock data ingestion, which is our repository, stock data ingestion, that we have given the name. You can give whatever is your choice, that will be created. This is the URI of that image, of that repository. Now once you have created a repository, now you need to build the Docker file. When I say build, the whole scripts will be containerized and will be placed into an image. Now how do you build the Docker images? Using this command, docker build -t, and you need to give the repository name and you need to give the dot. That means you are building the whole thing. Let me take you to the terminal and do this. Okay, let me just fix this. Let me run the build command, that is, let me pick it from here, docker build -t and the repository name. Now if I hit the build will become, what this does is this will create a container in your local Docker. Now let me take you to the Docker and let me show you that. So this is a stock data ingestion that we have just built. If you can see, less than a minute. So now we have built this. Now let me take you to the code. Yes. After you build it, you need to give a tag to your container which you want to use. Tagging is something like a replica of the container which you want to use. You can have multiple tags. In the case of production environment, you can have 3 different tags like latest, development and production. You can use it different tags for different mechanism. Now let me use the tag latest for this and assign it. Now there is a tag called latest assigned to this particular image, container image. Now the task is, we have created the repository, we have built the Docker container in our local. The next job is we need to connect to our ECR so that we can push this particular Docker container image to AWS. Let me connect to that. If I hit the enter in this, after doing this command, you can see we are doing AWS ECR login to the region and we are giving username and password. This username and password will be picked up from AWS configure, which you have done in the previous steps. Now let's wait for this to get connected. Yes, if you see, you can see login succeeded. Now we can clearly see the AWS and the Docker is connected. Now the final step is we need to push this image using the docker push command. I will share all the necessary commands to you in the project details. Now when I hit enter, a push will be triggered and it will push all the required scripts, the base image and everything into your ECR. Let's wait for the push to finish. then we will validate in ECR. Once your push is succeeded, you can come to your ECR, and if you check your images, you will see an image with the tag called latest here. If you open it, there is a URI of that image which we will be using in creating the batch job. So in this video, what we have done is we have scripted the Docker script, that is this. So we have picked the base image, we have installed all the necessary libraries, then we have copied the scripts we want, and we have run the shell script. And later on, we have built a repository in the ECR with the name called stock data ingestion to hold the images that we are going to create in the future. Then we have built the Docker container image. Then we have given the tag as latest to that. We have connected to ECR using this particular command. Finally, we did a push of this image. We will be using the URI of the Docker image in running the AWS batch job. I will be sharing all the required documents and the scripts. You can refer for them in the future purpose. We'll learn how to set up the AWS batch job. So the steps we have done till now are we have generated a Python script which will get the data from the Yahoo Finance API. Now that data is loaded into our needs to be loaded into the raw bucket, and after that we need to perform some transformation. For that we created a transform script. Now we need to do these two tasks using the AWS batch. How are we going to do is we have created a Docker file by using which we created a container, and we pushed the Docker image to the ECR where the image is having all the necessary things to execute the task, the scripts, the secret manager secrets, and everything. Now the next task is how are we going to use the ECR image in order to run these two tasks. So for any batch job, if you want to execute, there are 4 different steps you need to take. First, you need to create a compute environment where you will be specifying the batch, what is a compute you need to use, whether it's an EC2 instance or a Fargate or a Spot instances. Once you create a compute environment, then you will create a job queue. After the job queue, you will give a job definition. Inside the job definition, you will specify what is a Docker image you need to run, what are the different attributes of the job you can give. Once these 3 things are set up and running, you can set up a job. Visually you can see it over here. You have a compute environment, you have a job queue, then you have a job definition. After you have all these things, you can run a batch job. You can schedule it using a batch scheduler, like if you want to run it like once every day, or if you want to run it on demand, it's your choice. Let's get started with creating a compute environment. If you go to compute environment, there is a create option here. Click on the create option. You will be provided with 3 different options to create. One is Fargate, one is EC2, and another one is EKS. When you choose Fargate, everything is managed by AWS. You don't need to manage anything. Like Fargate can be provisioned about 30 seconds, but if you are using EC2 or EKS, it's completely your responsibility to manage the networking part and the compute capacity and other details. Let us start by giving a name to this compute environment. Finance project DEA. Finance project. Let's keep this. And the most important thing is the service role. So you will be asked to give the role in 2 different things. One is the compute environment, another one is your job definition. Here I would recommend you to use the same role which you are using in compute environment in the job definition. We will see what are the different things you need to give access to your compute environment. So I think let us start by creating a job definition first. So click on create. We will use Fargate, and so that we will understand what role we used in job definition, we can use the same in compute. Name of the job definition will be finance project job definition. Let's use this name. And these are the optional things you can specify now, or you can also specify while you are submitting the job. Now coming the most important part of the job definition, which is what is the runtime platform you need to use. Mostly when you are running the shell commands, you will use Linux. When you are running Windows commands, you will use Windows. Now the most important part is architecture, whether you need to choose x86 64 or ARM 64. So for identifying which one you need to use, you need to inspect your Docker image. And let us go to Docker image. Let me do. So you need to you can get the image from here. You can copy this image and run one particular command that I'm doing now. Docker inspect image, and paste the image which you have copied from Docker from here, this one. So this is the image name which you have created recently. Let me open this and let us see what is it. If I hit enter, you will be generated with a ton of information. In all this information, the most important thing you need to look at is what is the architecture and on what machine is this image built on. Let me quickly take you there. So yes, so if you see the architecture here says ARM 64 and OS here says Linux. You need to be exactly using the same version in your job definition. So we are selected Linux and we will select ARM 64. Mismatch in CPU architecture might not be reflecting into job failure most of the times, but it is always advisable to use same CPU architecture upon which your Docker image is built. Now these are the different things. Now the role, you choose a role here, or you can create a execution role. When you are starting to create a job definition for the first time, you can go ahead and click on create execution role. Once you assign this role here, you can add on permissions to that. Let's see what are the different permissions you need to add on. Since the Docker image needs to be accessed, which is present in your ECR, you need to give ECS access. Since our file information are loaded into S3, you need S3 access, and we are running batch information, so you need the batch jobs batch full access, and we are accessing the secrets manager. For that we need to have secrets manager read and write access. So these are the different accesses you need to give to your role. You can pause the screen and note it down. So after selecting the role, click on the next. Now remove this. This is the point where you specify what is the Docker image you need to run. So for that, go to ECR, go to images. Here you will find the latest image that you have pushed into your ECR by running the docker push command in the previous video. Now if you open that, there is URI here. Copy this repository URI, come back to your image and just paste it over here. Now we have set up the image into the job definition. Now parameters, you can specify the generic parameters over here, or you can also give it in the later stages when you submit the job. Okay, since we don't change few parameters for all the jobs that we are going to run, let us try to give those values over here. One is it will be the let me go back to my script. So what is my parameter is secret name. Let me give it here, secret name. What is my secret name is Yahoo Finance API. This is not going to change. And another parameter is S3 bucket, and that is this, and the bucket name I am going to use is this. We need to give the parameters in the environment. Let's do that. Let me quickly remove this. So add environment variables. We will be adding secret name, that is this, Then this is our secret name. One more, S3 bucket, and the bucket name that we are using is this. Let me quickly paste it over here. One more couple of secrets that we need to add is you need to add the access key ID and secret access key that we have created in our previous steps. When you have downloaded the CSV file, you might have saved the access key ID and secret access key. You cannot access the secret key once your page is closed, so it's important for you to download the CSV file. So once these 4 secrets are loaded, now let me click on next. So let me go through this. We have given the image name here. Later on we have given the environment. The thing you need to modify is CPUs. The maximum number of CPUs, how many you can allot, you can specify you over here. Let's give it as 4. You can also choose 4. One vCPU might be insufficient in some cases, and memory is 8 GB. This works. This is a hard limit you can give to the container, so it will not exceed this limit. So these are the different things I have configured in the job definition container configuration. Let me click on next, and I am not using anything here because we are not doing any initialization process or any container additions over here. Click on next. So we will be verifying this. The operating system family is Linux, architecture ARM64, role is this particular role which we have chosen, and container information maximum 4 vCPUs, 8 gigabytes of memory, and 4 different environment variables, secret name, S3 bucket, AWS access key ID, and AWS secret access key. Create job definition. Now finance project job definition is successfully created. You can see it over here. Type is Fargate, maximum vCPUs is 4, and memory is 8 GB. Now once the job definition is done, let me go to compute environment. Click on compute environment, finance project compute environment, and role. Choose the same role that you have used for job definition. You can add all the necessary permissions to that role once you attach to it, and make sure your trust relationship is having batch access to it. I will be sharing this to you, don't worry, but pause your screen and have a look at it. For this particular role, there are 2 trust relationship. One is ECS, another one is batch, because I'm trying to use the same role for both the job definition and the compute environment. Let me get back here, and I have chosen Fargate and next. So maximum vCPUs, I'm giving it as 5 or 4 over here again. Now click on next. Don't alter anything unless you have changed in your AWS account. Just click on next and verify all the details that you have given here, particularly the role and maximum vCPUs, and click on create compute environment. Now your compute environment is in the creating state. Let that get created. Yes, that is created now. The final step is job queue. You can create a job queue by using this. Again, choose Fargate, give the queue name, and you need to select the compute environment from the previous step. Let us do that. Job queue is finance project job queue. Priority, don't change any priority. Now the compute environment is the one which we created just now, finance project compute environment. Now you can give multiple compute environments you can attach to this queue. That then if there are more than one compute environment you have attached, you need to specify the prioritization as well. Now we are not doing that. Now go ahead and click on create queue. Now if you see, it's in the creating stage. We have created the job definition. we have created the job queue, and we have created the compute environment. Since we have already pushed the Docker image into ECR, and we specified that in this particular Docker image, which is this container, this is the one, we can start submitting the jobs. So in our next video, we will submit the job and verify whether we are getting the data into our raw folder, from there into our transformed folder or not. Let's start to submit the job. In the previous video, we created a job definition, we created a compute environment, then we created a job queue. Let us submit a new job. Let's give the job name as finance. Let's give the name as Yahoo Finance details, Yahoo Finance data. Job definition, project, job definition, job queue is we created finance product job queue, and we are not adding any tags over here. Let me click on the next, and if you see in our script itself, we have specified the scripts, the stock symbols which we need to get the information for Apple, Microsoft and Google. So let's just, if you see, since you have attached the job definition to that, these values are auto populated. If you want to override them, you can still do that, but for this particular job it is not required. So let's just go ahead and let's give maximum job attempt as 1 and execution timeout, mention it as 600 seconds, because if you don't mention, if it encounters into any failure, the batch job will be continuously running. So specify the 600 here because it's in seconds, and click on next. Now you review the information. This is the job name, this is the job definition, finance project job definition, and the job queue, finance project job queue, and execution timeout is 600 and job attempt is only 1. These are the environmental variables we are looking at, and let me click on submit job. If you see, the job will be submitted, just wait for it to get into the running state. From there on it will be in the, we can identify whether it's succeeded or not. After submitted, you will see the status as runnable over here. Still you will not be allotted with any AWS batch queue to identify the logs. If I run it again, it's in the starting phase. Now the job is starting, that means the job log stream will be assigned to the job, as well as the job will start kickoff. If you see the Docker image, let me go back to the Docker image. So Docker file, we are running these two tasks parallelly, I mean sequentially, one after the other. We don't need to execute two different jobs, we will execute only one job, where first the data loading happens, then the transformation happens. If the job runs successfully, the data needs to be present in our S3 buckets in here. So you will have a information over here, and you will have a information over here as well. Now I think the job has succeeded. Let's just check that. So yes, so I can see a data that is loaded into the raw bucket. Let's just validate with the batch job first. If I run this, we can see the job is succeeded. That means the two tasks are completed. Now how do you validate the two tasks are completed is, click on the log stream, you will be taken to AWS batch. So all the logging that we have mentioned in our script will be shown here. If you see from the starting, it says credentials are found. This is our access key, and this is the raw data that we are getting. Out of this, we need to do cleaning, and we need to only get only that information which we want. Now if I go back, it is writing into S3's raw folder. Now reading the, by this point, the data has been loaded into raw folder of the S3 bucket. Exactly at this point, the second task starts. It is reading the data from this JSON and transforming the data. Here you can see it has transformed 3 rows or 3 records, because we are doing the information for 3 different stocks, and it is writing the data into S3. Finally, the data transformation completed successfully. How can you validate that is, see the file in your raw folder. You can see that, and if you go to your transformed folder, you will also find a JSON object here. If you open this and click on open. Just validate whether it is having information or not. Now it will be downloaded. If I open, you can see this. There is a clean JSON file that is created with company name, company ID, currency, current price, day low and day high. Using this particular list of dictionaries, you can further process the information using a Python script, or you can do any data visualization on top of this file. This we have come to the end of the video. So once we have set up with the batch job and we have transformed the data and we have put it into S3, there might be a scenario where your batch job fails. Now as a data engineer, we cannot monitor all the jobs at a time manually. We need to set up some failure notification mechanism in order to tackle these kind of scenarios. For that, we are trying to use two resources here in AWS. One is SNS, another one is CloudWatch events. For that, we need to create a role. Before starting our failure notification service, let's set up an SNS topic for that. Let's go to SNS. Inside SNS, we will be creating a topic which will be doing our task here. Let me create a topic. It will be a standard topic. Topic name will be batch job notification, and display name, let it be finance project notifications, let it be. And we are not altering any of them as of now, so access policy will not be any altered, and there will be small changes needed as per the requirement. We will be tweaking that based upon our requirement later on. As of now, we will be creating a simple topic and hit on create topic, just so that we will get it in our CloudWatch events. This is our topic. Now, to whom does this topic should send the notification for? You can either choose a Slack API's endpoint or anything. For simplicity here, we are choosing email, and email will be my email address. Now let me create a subscription. Once the subscription is created, you can go to topic. You can open the topic name, and there is a pending confirmation. If I go to my mail, if you see, there is an email confirmation that is present over here. Confirm subscription. Subscription confirmed. If I go back to my SNS and do a refresh here, you will be able to see the confirm subscription option here. Now our SNS topic is ready, and the email to which email we need to send the notification is also ready. Now we need to configure, that is, we need to link the batch job to this SNS topic somehow. For that, let me go to the CloudWatch console. This will be my CloudWatch. In my CloudWatch, I need to create a rule. Where will my rule present is in events. Click on the rules. You will be taken to the rules console, which is an event bridge. Now inside rules, you will click on create rule. Now rule details, rule name. Let's give a failure rule finance project. That is done. Now let me go ahead and click on rule with event pattern and next. When you select next, you will be asked for the event source. Now let me quickly select the event source. Here we are selecting AWS events because AWS Batch is one of the AWS service whose events we are tracking here. Because we are only setting up this failure notification, we will only capture the event state, which is failure for batch job. Here we will be selecting AWS events, and what is the event is, it will be batch job change state. So there are many states a batch job can pass through. We will be only capturing one of those changes. So this is the basic sample that we will get from the AWS. We will just copy this, and when we are editing the pattern, let me edit it, and in this let me paste all this. We require only few things here. One is the source, that is our AWS batch, and let me remove all this. This will be my pattern is something when this matches the event will be triggered, and I'm also removing this. Let the region be, and also account and resources also I'm removing. You can curate it as per your requirement. Job name, I'm removing all this. I'm only giving job queue. Let me get the job queue there. Go to batch, go to job queues. This is the job queue we used. This is the ARN. Just replace it over here. So any job that is having a status in this particular job queue, that will be triggered, and the status we are looking at is failed. And yes, we are not using all this. Yeah, source, region and details, and I'm removing all of these. Yep. Therefore, whenever this particular case matches, the event will be triggered. So this is the event pattern. We will be checking if it is from batch, if it is from this region and this job queue, and if the status is failed, then we will trigger it. Let me click on next. Now we need to select the target. Target is our SNS topic. Now what is the topic? That is batch job failure notification. Now next. And if you need to add any tags, you can add it. As of now we are not adding anything. Click on next. I'm removing this. Click on next. So this is the rule we have created. Failure rule for the finance project. This is the event pattern if it is from AWS batch and region EUS East 1, and from this particular job queue, which is our finance project job queue, whenever the status is failed, we will be sending a event trigger to the SNS notification, and the SNS notification will send the message to the email or the Slack endpoint you have given. We will create a rule. I think there are few changes we need to do. Okay, these things should be inside a list. Let me edit it quickly. This thing should be inside a list. Even this, because when you have multiple values, this will be a list separated by a comma, and this, I think this should work, and this finally, let me add it here as well. Now next. Next, next, and next. If you see, the rule is getting created. We have successfully created an event which will be triggered whenever there is a failure in a particular job queue, and it will send the notification to SNS topic. The topic will in turn send the message to my email, which I have configured. This is how we are setting up the failure notification. Let us do a test whether our failure notification mechanism is properly getting executed or not. So I will just trigger a job that will fail, and in turn let's see if we are getting a notification to our email or not. Now let me go ahead and go on jobs. So inside jobs I will be submitting a new job, the failure test. Let's give a name as failure test, and job definition will be this, and the job queue which we configured to get the failure notification is this particular job queue. And let me click on next, and job attempt is 1. Let's put the execution time as very minimal so that it doesn't execute. One obvious way how we can make it fail is, let's give a wrong API secret name, that is Yahoo Finance. Instead of API, I just removed it, so when it is fetching the secret, it should fail. Now let me go on next, and let me hit on submit job. When I submit job, it will be failed. Let us wait for the job to fail, and let's see if we are getting a failure notification or not. If our failure notification is getting triggered, voila, we have successfully set up a event failure notification for our data engineering pipeline, where you no need to sit and monitor the batch job for the failure or any status. You will get a mail notification whether you can go back to your AWS and check if your batch job has failed. Let us just see in which state the job is in. It's in the running state as of now. Let's wait for the job to fail. I will take you to my email and show the failure notification. So yes, if you see the job has failed, now we should have received an event notification in our email that we have configured. Now let me go to my mail. Yes, if you see here, there is an email that says the event has failed. Now if you see, we are getting a complete failure notification here. Depending upon your requirement, you can again set up this message according to your own needs. If you see here, you will see the image which we used because of the reason of failure. And if we carefully inspect this, we can clearly understand the reason of failure. So we have successfully set up the failure notification, and we have successfully tested it. With this, we have come to the end of the project.
Okay, so that's the project breakdown. I hope you enjoyed. And if you are interested in learning more projects just like this, so you can learn a bunch of tools and walk through a bunch of real life projects so that you can put on your resume and so that you can feel confident talking about these on the interview, then click on the link below and see how you can work directly with me and my team at Data Engineer Academy, because we've already helped over 2,000 people just like you. And all you have to do is click on the link, book a call, see what we have to offer. And if you don't want to work with us, all good, no worries at all. But if you do, click on the link below and let's see how we can help. Cheers.